to the 49ers RedZone podcast. I'm here with my boy Rohan. He was at training camp all week. He will provide the best updates he can about training camp right after this.
Let's go get him. Let's go get him today, man. Let's go. Hey, dominate on three. 1, 2, 3. Dominate.
Welcome back, everybody. So this week, 49ers had training camp. Rohan was there. I'm in Irvine, unfortunately. Couldn't be there, but Rohan was there. So we're going to give you guys a little bit talk about what happened at training camp. So I know Rohan was reporting to me. I have another guy who was there more so behind the scenes, not necessarily in the stands, more so from the team side. So we'll talk about a little bit what questions people have and stuff, because there's a couple questions we had on Twitter. More so, let's talk a little bit about what the team looks like and if we should be concerned about anything and stuff like that. But before we do that, Rohan, how's your morning going? Super early. Had to wake you up early. How you doing, my man?
Doing good. Haven't been actually. No, I'm lying. I've been up this early over the last couple of weeks just because training camp has been early and I wanted to get out there. So I have been actually waking up at about 7 a.m. every single morning. I look like this at 7 a.m. every morning, but I get up and I have to go out to training camp because I leave the house at around 8:30. So I've been trying to get up every morning. That's one thing. But yeah, it's been a good, nice time, and training camp has been very fun. First week of training camp so far. 49ers started obviously on Wednesday. Thursday was another practice. Friday was closed, and then Saturday, yesterday, was the first practice of the day. And before I go, I got to give a shout out to our guys Kali and 49ers Throwback. Thank you both for tuning in on this fine morning. But really, training camp was fun. So it was a good start to the week for me, and I'm excited to see when Pat's coming.
This is funny. You guys both better look like you guys woke up. So I've been up for about 30 minutes. I went downstairs. Obviously, look, I'm at a hotel. Went downstairs. I got a cup of coffee. It has not hit, so I went and got another coffee right before the episode started. Um, but appreciate everyone for tuning in. So, Rohan, let me ask you a couple questions, obviously, because you were there at practice, right? So I'll more so be doing like questions and stuff. Um, but obviously, it's like I do have a little bit more. Like I was like texting, like, "Oh, I heard this happen," or whatever the case may be. So
Right.
let's get started straight with the defense, right? Because
Mhm.
obviously that's one of the most important things and most trending things right now, right? Everyone's talking about this defense and oh, this defense looks fascinating. The defense looks like the best defense we've seen in a very long time. Well, from your perspective, let's be 100% honest. How does the secondary actually look? Is it the secondary locking people down and there's no one open? And the reason why these quarterbacks are throwing interceptions, or these quarterbacks just suck ass and they're throwing interceptions?
I think the secondary has looked as good as advertised. And you hear about the splash plays, right? You hear about the 8 interceptions in the first 4 days of practice. You hear about Travarius Ward not giving up many catches, and if so, he's in step and making a good play on the ball. Like, for example, the 50-yard throw that Trey Lance made, phenomenal throw, but when you see the coverage by Travarius Ward on that play, he was step in step with Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk just made a phenomenal catch over Ward on the sideline in the video that you guys see. Ward has
He
been
got mossed.
as good as yeah, he got mossed, but he's been as good as advertised. He's been the best player for the 49ers 4 practices in, and Emmanuel Mosley is maybe the second best player. He's been kind of an underrated piece because Ward has been in the spotlight so far, but I don't think Emmanuel Mosley has given up a single catch 4 practices in. Every time he's targeted, it's either a PBU or an incompletion. He's been that good. And Kyle Shanahan talked about Emmanuel Mosley. He's like when he was talking about the secondary, and when he was asked a question about the secondary yesterday, who was the first name he pointed to? Emmanuel Mosley and his work ethic. Mosley has been very good so far. Ward has been very good so far. Really, there have been a couple of plays that haven't been really noticed in the media, and they've just been beautiful coverage plays where the 49ers quarterbacks are forced to run. There was a play with Nate Sudfeld yesterday. There was a coverage sack by Nick Bosa yesterday just because the coverage was there for so long before Trey Lance could find Juwan Jennings for 10 yards. Some of these passes happen after 7 or 8 seconds, and that's because the coverage is held up for that long. And so you see some of these completions, but it happens after a while because the coverage sustains for a while. Now, the second team and the third team, they haven't been as good. One name that has been good in those teams is Deommodore Lenoir. Second and third team hasn't been as good, but then again, it's first team receivers going against the backups, so you expect them to win. And also, it's not necessarily on the cornerbacks. Kyle Shanahan's a master manipulator with his receivers. He finds a way to get them open, and so he finds places in the middle of the defense where they are open. If it's soft coverage, like early on, it was a lot of soft coverage, but the defense has looked good so far. That's something that is something to look forward to kind of going into the year because there have been a lot of good coverage plays so far. There haven't necessarily been a lot of blow ups, and it's been through all receivers. Talking about Brandon Ayuk, I thought the top two cornerbacks had done a good job on him on the first 2 days of practice. Ayuk was the best player on the field yesterday, but on Wednesday and Thursday, I thought Ayuk the first two cornerback or top two cornerbacks neutralized him. You talk about Ray McLeod, he was all right as well, but there were a couple of incompletions thrown his way. Then the biggest one was Danny Gray. Which one of these cornerbacks could keep up with the deep speed of Danny Gray? And in my opinion, so far it's been almost all of them. Gray has looked a little bit like a rookie so far. I'll be honest, but Charvarius Ward was able to keep up with him on a deep ball. Deommodore Lenoir was able to keep up with him on a deep ball yesterday that forced interception. And so there have been a couple of plays like that.
So, so you talk about denominator Lenore, right? So
Yeah.
our biggest question going into camp, right, was, okay, well, not necessarily how will the corner room look, right? We thought Charvarius Ward, you and I both, the last episode, we said Charvarius Ward was the biggest signing, um, or the most underrated signing that any team could possibly do because it only not only does it allow D'Amico Ryans to do more single high cover one, and shade that corner over the other side on Emmanuel Mosley. So instead of him being straight up, he's literally shading. So now it's more like a bracket coverage, and Charvarius Ward's on the other side on an island, which is something we want to do, right? You want to be able to disguise coverages, but also take away things because Charvarius Ward is doing all that. Then that allows for a player in particular to more so be a rover and more so to be a, reading the quarterback, using his instincts, right? And
Mhm.
that's a player I'm gonna mention right now. And so we heard one day from him, he had a pass breakup. Then the next day he has an interception. And then the next day we don't really hear about him. But then the thing is though is when you don't hear about secondary players, usually that means they're doing a good thing. Like usually like that's you we only hear when secondary is giving plays up, right? So for
Mhm.
example, yesterday I don't believe I heard anything about Emmanuel Mosley. Um, from my guy. I didn't hear anything. But what that told me was Emmanuel Mosley looks freaking good. So then I
Yeah.
also didn't hear anything about Samuel Womack or Dante Johnson outside of Dante Johnson starting in the slot, right? So talk to me a little bit about the slot players because I did hear that Dante Johnson did look pretty solid in the slot. I also heard Samuel Womack, even though he's running with the threes after Denard was pushed to the twos,
Mhm.
that Samuel Womack does look pretty solid inside the slot, and he looks like a guy who you and I both said, right? We said Dante Johnson's that player where if he wins a spot, the 49ers are more than willing to cut him to put us to have a player make the roster, stash that player, and the next thing you know, that Dante Johnson's back on the team. So talk to me a little bit about who do you think is winning the slot battle? Because obviously we see guys like Denard, we see guys like Dante Johnson there, and guys like Samuel Womack. Outside of those three, obviously Samuel Womack's going against the third receivers or the second receivers, right? So he's probably going to look a little bit better, possibly. I don't know how he's looking to you, but talk to me about those three players, please.
Yeah, so first starting off with Dante Johnson in the slot battle, it's kind of gone in a way to how I thought it would be. I first thought he would be safety, like getting safety reps. I tweeted I wouldn't be surprised if he was one of the safeties on the roster in 2022. And then I also tweeted earlier this offseason how Dante Johnson could be seen as one of the guys in the slot. And he started off training camp the first 3 days with a third team safeties. He hasn't necessarily gotten much action with the safeties. It's been him and Leon O'Neal. Johnson did cycle in a little bit with the twos during scrimmage time, but during drills and everything, it's been him and Leon O'Neal with the third team. Johnson being the coverage guy, Leon O'Neal spending time either with cover two looks or in the box, and it'd be a single high look. But Johnson got all the first team reps, or not all. I think he got a majority of the first team reps yesterday at cornerback number one, at slot cornerback number one. He was the guy who swapped in with Aziz Al-Shire in nickel packages, and so he yesterday looked pretty fine. I think he gave up one catch. It was but it was really nice coverage. It was a route Brandon Ayuk was running from the slot on the right side. Going in, he had made an in break. Johnson had inside leverage, and Lance hit Ayuk on the outside shoulder. He jumped up and made the catch, kind of a basket catch to his opposite shoulder with Johnson on the inside. So it was a nice catch by Ayuk, but good read by Dante Johnson, because if a normal quarterback throws that inseam on the route, it's probably an incompletion and maybe a PBU by Dante Johnson. So he, in my opinion, has looked fine so far. He has he's Dante Johnson. He's your versatile guy. I don't take too much out of it, because I just always end up believing he'll make the roster. When it's all said and done, he'll be cut. He'll be brought back, like you said. But like you said, this might be shaping up to where the 49ers cut Darqueze Dennard. 49ers maybe cut Dante Johnson as well to keep one of the younger guys. And then when Brett gets pushed to IR or PUP, Dante Johnson gets brought back as one of the last corners on the roster, and he might start week one to maybe let a guy like Samuel Womack get acclimated to the NFL environment before Womack starts pushing him for further reps. Because Womack did get bumped to the third team yesterday. He wasn't a guy in the really mentioned much, which is a good sign for corners, because you don't want your name thrown out there a lot. He wasn't a guy mentioned much. Him and Tariq Castro Fields, I thought, looked pretty solid yesterday with the third team. Remember, when you're talking about the third team guys, that's guys going against Purdy and Sudfeld. When you talk about their days, they didn't really have great days. And a lot of times with these third team corners, these 13 quarterbacks and second team quarterbacks, they're throwing a lot of these checkdowns, throwing a lot of short passes, not really trying to attempt passes towards these corners. So that is the interesting part about them. So far, fine performances by both of them.
Yeah, so for me, what I was told about Samuel Womack is that he looks good. I asked my guy, I was like, so tell me about Samuel Womack, because before, right, like last episode, I was talking about how Samuel Womack was a guy that a lot of teams were actually pretty high on, right? Like everyone, when the Niners drafted Samuel Womack in the fifth round, everyone on 49ers Twitter was like, whoa, we don't even know who this dude is. He's not on anyone's draft boards, right? Like people were trying to get information on him. Like that was the consensus on him, right? So when I hit up my buddy who works with the 49ers, and then I hit up an agent, and the consensus was from teams was a lot of teams were high on him. And he said, then the agent said, I will not be surprised if he ends up starting, because a lot of teams had him with the fourth round grade. And that's something that the 49ers needed is that nickel corner, someone who could step in right away and play. And he has that mentality. So what I was told is they're more so just trying to ease his way in.
Yeah.
Dennard is a super smart guy. So why not have one of the smartest guys in that room start for now? Let Womack pick his brain while he's starting. Hey, that's your mentor. You go pick his brain for every single question you have. That's what you got to do for the next couple weeks. And while Samuel Womack's getting some reps, was with the twos, now goes to the threes. Okay, now hey, you better battle. You're losing this battle. See how he reacts, right? Like that's the kind of things you need these rookies to do. And that's why
Exactly.
I want them to throw Tariq Castro Fields in with the twos every once in a while, and then, like stuff like that. Like mix them in, get them these quality reps against quality receivers, right? So I've heard Samuel Womack looks good. I heard Dante Johnson he's Dante Johnson. He's Mr. Reliable, right? Everyone in the 49ers fan base always talks bad about Dante Johnson, but realistically, Dante Johnson is Mr. Reliable. He's gonna show up. You know what he's gonna give you. He might have a play or two where he gives up a big play or he has a pass interference, but that's not a knock to who he is, right? We're not expecting Dante Johnson to come in and be an all-pro corner. We need him
Right.
just to be a reliable corner that is not going to get picked on too often, right? So there's a question by Khalil Young. Are you guys looking forward to of the pads to come on tomorrow? Also, I see Trey was taking extra snaps with Brunskill after practice yesterday. That's because the 49ers want Brunskill to win that starting position. And from what I've been told, I don't know, Rohan I haven't seen it reported, but from what I've been told, Daniel Brunskill has actually had a lot of snaps in the shotgun. They have not looked too good. So that's something that they're trying to work on. Um, I'm very excited for Pats to come on tomorrow because it literally shows us how the offensive line looks, how the defensive line looks. And that's the biggest thing, right? Because a lot of people will come in and they're like, oh, the offensive line sucks. Offensive line is trash. Like, but the thing is, though, when you don't have anything to hit as an offensive lineman, like you're looking for those chest plates to grab and stick in, right? That's kind of what you're trying to do. You can get a little bit more physical, and when you don't have that, offensive lineman can't get as physical in the run game, in pass protection, and stuff like that. So that's something I'm definitely looking forward to. I'm sure Rohan is too, because he
Yeah.
definitely texted me. I can't wait for Pat to come on Monday so I can see how the O line looks.
Exactly, exactly. And you talk about Brunskill. First two practices, I thought he did struggle a little bit. You saw some of the lower snaps. You saw some of the issues that I know we were talking about with Daniel Brunskill. He didn't necessarily have the best reps in pass protection. Yesterday, though, was the most interesting day for me. He got the most reps with the ones that I'd seen so far in practice, and he looked good yesterday. Yesterday was definitely Daniel Brunskill's best day of practice. I didn't think the snap issues were really there yesterday, and also the pass protection specifically from his point was not that poor. You saw sometimes the guards getting beat. I know Aaron Banks got beat by Javon Kinlaw on the first play of the day. Just a freak of nature. And then
So
Spencer Burford.
I was
Yeah,
told it actually wasn't Aaron Banks who got beat. I was told it was Jake Brendel based on
interesting.
assignment.
I had it
Based on assignment.
Okay. Maybe it's a miss on assignment. I had initially written that it was Aaron Banks because Kinlaw obviously is in the middle, lined up against Brendel. He was going to the right side, so maybe Brendel missed his assignment. But it was Aaron Banks after all who had picked up Kinlaw. Kinlaw pushed him back a little bit, but after that, Banks had a pretty solid day. I know Burford got beat a little bit, but at center, when you talk about Daniel Brunskill, Brunskill looked pretty good yesterday, especially because the 49ers finally started getting in the groove with their running game. You saw a lot more downfield runs, and Brunskill was blocking a little bit in a couple of those runs. So it's so far initial looks, like you said, 49ers, it seems like they want Brunskill to win that center job, and he had a better practice on Saturday.
And the reason why, right? Like the reason why I should say like right now because some people are tuning in, right? As we speak, they're jumping in. So the reason why I'm saying from what I've heard is because Rohan's there at practice. Um, I'm speaking to someone on the other side of practice, right? So more so the 49er side. So like on certain situations, I'll ask him, hey, like, what happened here? And he did tell me that was Jake Brendel's from what he heard that was Jake Brendel's assignment. Jake
Mhm.
Brendel kind of blanked and didn't slide to the left to pick up Javon Kinlaw, and Aaron
Mhm.
Banks picked them up. Which is, hey, that's what you got to work out, right? The first couple weeks of camp, and that's something I like that Aaron Banks saw because if Aaron Banks doesn't do that, Kinlaw's getting in there for a quick sack, right? So that's something that at least Aaron Banks noticed because a lot of times young players on the offensive line won't notice that and they'll still just stick to their assignment instead of inside out. So that I do like how Aaron Banks did do that. Another question, Marco, do you think Jimmy G goes to the Giants despite having talks? I know you tweeted about this. So I did tweet the 49ers so obviously 49ers allowed Jimmy to talk to people, right? And I did talk 49ers quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo's agent, Don Yee, is in talks with the New York Giants. That is something that I have heard. I keep asking on information on it, and they keep telling me it's more so they're more so trying to look at a spot on numbers, right? On where Jimmy Garoppolo's contract is going. Like they don't want Jimmy Garoppolo's contract on that $26 million cap hit because if they have that, they have to restructure, and that's not what they're trying to do. They more so see Jimmy as a guy who could come in, they'll extend him, give him a little bit more guaranteed money because obviously he only has that 1.1 or 1.5 million guaranteed. Give him a little more guaranteed money over the next 2-3 years to allow him to come in this year, next year, and possibly a third year. But more so, what they're looking to do, and this is something that a lot of fans, and I think it's more so my fault. because a lot of fans jumped in saying, "Oh, you're saying they're trading for him." No, they're talking. Just because
Yeah,
they are
yeah,
talking to someone does not mean they are actually trading for this guy, right? There's two
exactly.
different things. So when we look at this, right, they're looking at a contract slot. Where can they fit him in terms of cap space, and that's what they're doing here. Now, when I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm talking to the people that I'm talking to, I asked, well, do you think it's going to happen? And they said, it all depends on what the 49ers want in return. One, and I don't think the Niners want much in return. I think they're just ready to move on, and they want Jimmy Garoppolo out of there. Like that thing at the end of the day, they'll move on for less to get rid of him. Two, cap space. What does Jimmy Garoppolo end up wanting? Does he want too? Does he feel like he's still a high end starter, or he wants a lot of money? Because if that's the case, he ain't getting that, and the Giants aren't going to want to trade him. They'd rather have the 49ers cut him. So then when free agency, or which technically he's a free agent, free agency comes, they could, hey, Jimmy, we'll give you this contract. It's more than what the Seattle's going to offer you, and we have a better offensive line, and we have a better offensive coordinator in Brian Dabble. Just pick your choice, right? So that's stuff like that. Like, it's not necessarily. I'm not gonna say I think he goes there, because obviously there's other teams talking to him that I can't 100% report on, because it's one of those ones where, yeah, they called Donnie, but I'm not gonna say that, because technically, just because they called him doesn't mean they're actually talking about contract situations. I know for sure the New York Giants have called and actually has talked about a contract, so that's something I could actually report on.
Yeah, and to speak on this, a lot of people were talking about Jimmy Garoppolo and how the New York Giants don't have cap space. I understand that. Totally understand it, and I wrote the article based on your report yesterday. But Jimmy Garoppolo, um, his contract right now is non-guaranteed.
Hey,
So
Rohan, I think Jesse's trying to tell you something. Hey,
this
the
guy,
young kids are supposed to sleep in a little bit later, you know.
East Coast people, man, you get out of here. But no, Jimmy Garoppolo, right? When you talk about Garoppolo's contract, it's non-guaranteed, and I wrote this. I wrote about this in the article yesterday. Garoppolo's contract does not matter. I essentially view him right now as a free agent who is negotiating new contracts with another team.
It
This is a
matters.
rework contract.
It,
Go
it,
ahead.
it, it matters for the 49ers in terms of wanting to sign Deebo, right? It does. And
Correct.
so, like, for the 49ers, it matters, but for other teams, it does not matter.
Correct. Let's clarify that because it matters for other teams. Sorry, it doesn't matter for other teams, but it does for the 49ers because that's the biggest point. What if how have the other receivers been doing this past offseason? 3-year deals and massive signing bonuses. You saw Terry McLaurin get a $30 million signing bonus. DK Metcalf got a $31 million signing bonus, or it was like 28 and 30. And
I
that is
thought
a lot of
McLaurin's was. I thought McLaurin's was a little bit less on the signing bonus. I thought his signing bonus was a little
here.
bit
I'll pull up the
less.
numbers because I wrote
Um,
about
I,
it.
I thought I think McLaurin's was 28, and then I think
28.
DK's was
Metcalf was
30.
30.
So like
Okay.
the people were like I think the 31 number that you're kind of like not necessarily like implying. I think that's what we're kind of expecting Deebo to sign for on that signing
Right.
bonus, right?
Right. And so when you look at Metcalf's contract, there are two void years to spread the cap hit over 5 years for 6 million each. And so if you're looking at it, and even if you have the two void years, Deebo Samuel's cap hit is probably going to increase in 2022, despite what we originally heard from John Lynch back in March, how you could lower his cap hit just based on how the signing bonuses have gone. And even if the 49ers give a $25 million signing bonus for a 3-year deal, that's still 8.33 million a year if they don't add an extra void year on the contract in the fifth and sixth year. That is because this is a 3-year extension, and so you're increasing the salary cap because Deebo Samuel's base salary will be a million to about 9ish million up from 4.9 million. And the 49ers currently don't have that amount of cap space to do that move, which is why it matters for them, as Marco said, to create cap space from the Jimmy Garoppolo move so that they can add Deebo Samuel to their payroll this year. So what I'm expecting is a deal to be agreed to in principle, but not finalized until Jimmy Garoppolo is officially off the roster.
So Rohan, we talked a little about the defense, right? We
Yeah.
talked a little bit about, I guess, more so the center. Let's talk a little about the offensive line, right? Because everyone's worried about that. I think that's one of the 49ers fan base biggest worries. I think the 49er fan base is so worried about the offensive line. Like every time I'm on the timeline, and all I see is, oh, this 49ers bad. This 49 offensive line is bad. What are we gonna do? Like this is stuff I'm seeing. I'm like, guys, we got to relax. Like just because the 49ers are giving up these pressures and giving up these so-called sacks, well, look who we have at offensive tackle. The interior offensive line has not looked bad, and that's the main part because we don't have Trent Williams at left tackle. And if everyone knows who a guy named Trent Williams, I'm not worried about Trent Williams, and I hope no other 49er fan is worried about Trent Williams. He is the best left tackle in the NFL. And then we have Mike McGlinchey, who is a starting capable of right tackle. So when we have those two guys step in, we're going to be much better. We're not going to be giving sacks on the edge to guys like Kimoko Ture like this. We're not going to give sacks to guys like Charles Omenihu like this. Like that's the things that are happening right now. And the 49er fans are like, well, all right, season's over. Throw it away. 49er offensive line is bad. So talking about the offensive line, because I know it's not bad. I definitely know it's not bad. But before we do that, I want to give a special thank you to everyone who is tuned in to the 49ers Red Zone. Make sure you go to YouTube if you're not already there. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the 49ers Red Zone podcast YouTube channel. And make sure you stay tuned in because we're going to keep giving you guys updates on training camp.
Yeah, and guys, if you guys don't know where that is, link is in the bio. So be sure to click it. Be sure you go ahead and subscribe. Good shout out there. But talking about the 49ers offensive line, definitely looked the best they've looked on Saturday. And the first couple of days, I mean, it's not too much of too much given how bad they performed in the first couple of days. But then again, like you said, it's without pads. Defense already has an advantage, and you're throwing guys like Colton McKivitz and Jalen Moore into the fire against Nick Bosa. So you're going to expect some rough patches, right? And yesterday on Saturday, we got Trent Williams back. You got Mike McGlinchey back, and McGlinchey had a bit of a welcome back kind of present from Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa did get the best of McGlinchey during their kind of middle reps. McGlinchey held him twice, and then so the first two plays of the second scrimmage, Nick Bosa got 2 sacks. One was not on McGlinchey. One was on a naked rollout by Trey Lance. He was waiting a couple of seconds. Great coverage on the play. Nick Bosa ended up getting the sack, and then Lance hit Jawan Jennings for 10 yards. The second one was just Nick Bosa beating Mike McGlinchey one-on-one. McGlinchey held him as well, but it was a sack on that play. And so it was a good start to Nick Bosa's day for the second scrimmage. McGlinchey was a little struggling there, but overall, apart from that, McGlinchey looked fine. Trent Williams looked pretty fine today. I think he only allowed 1 pressure, and that's saying something given it's this kind of environment, and that was to Samson Ebukam. And so to me, it was a pretty good day for the outside. You didn't see as much negative action on the tackles as you did in the previous days because the tackles were getting worked. I thought everybody had a good day. The one guy that I kind of had a question about was Spencer Burford. Gave up a sack to Kevin Givens, got worked on a play. He's probably the one concern right now in the 49ers offensive line. And even there, I'm not too concerned because his main objective is run blocking. I think he'll look good as a run blocker given his athleticism. And so that's where you wait for pads to come on.
First of all, Kevin Givens is legit. So people were like, I'm not saying this to you. Like people were like, oh, Kevin Givens, like he's a 13. He's legit. Fans are underestimate Kevin Givens, right?
He can be a starter on many rosters. He can be a starter on several other rosters.
Oh, easily. And that's one thing that when he signed with the 49ers undrafted, right? And then like his first year after watching him in camp and then watching in preseason games, as soon as I seen him in camp, I was like, he got a little twitch to him. Like he's fast. Like he has a good get off. And he's a little athletic, like twitchy. So that's something that I did notice. Going back to the offensive line, right? So you mentioned Burford is one of the guys that you're worried about. Do you think Burford is a for sure lock to start at right guard? Because we haven't seen no one else take those starting reps at right guard or left guard. So it kind of looks like those two guys are penciled in as starters on the offensive line. And if that's the case, I remember a lot of fan base, right? They were saying like, oh, we didn't draft anyone to start at right guard. And the 49ers get a guy, is in the 4th round, 5th round, they get a guy in Spencer Burford to start at right guard, right? So I'm a firm believer that if you're going to draft skill players, you draft skill players in the first two rounds, possibly 3, right? That's what you want to get your guys. You want to get your guys in the first 3 rounds for skill players. offensive line, I prefer 3 to 5th, like right 3rd round or 5th round, because you're going to get these guys who, one, offensive linemen always have a chip on their shoulder no matter what. So when these guys see all these offensive linemen go before them and they're solid, they're usually gonna be pretty solid starters, not solid starters, but either backups in the NFL, and that's something you need on your offensive line. So we've seen the 49ers draft offensive linemen usually in the later rounds, right? So we've seen guys like Spencer Burford, Jalen Moore, Aaron Banks was taken in the 2nd round, which I was very shocked that they took him in the 2nd round. Um, so do you think that is a great value pick? Now looking back at it, if he ends up starting, it was a great pick because a lot of fans wanted the 49ers to draft someone in the 2nd round to either start at center or guard. Do you think the 49ers made the right choice by end up taking Drake Jackson and then finding a great guard in the later rounds? Because I heard Drake Jackson looks like a phenomenal player right now. I heard he's one of the guys that it's like, whoa, hey, we did find a starting edge opposite of Nick Bosa, and I've been told that the 49ers expect him to start week 1.
And I wouldn't be surprised by that. And you talk about Drake Jackson and Spencer Burford. I'll first start with the offensive lineman. Um, First, you asked, do you think he starts? I think right now he is the biggest favorite to start. He probably, right now, it's a 75% chance he starts for the sole reason that you said. There isn't any active competition. The other guard has been Keaton Sutherland or Nick Zakel, and really the backup right guard has been rotating because at first it was Zakel, but Sutherland, since he wasn't getting enough reps at center, went to the second team right guard yesterday, and so you don't necessarily see constant rotation there. And so if Burford's backup right now in camp is a guy who won't make the roster in Keaton Sutherland, I don't expect there to be a competition at the moment. Now, it's really, in my opinion, all dependent on what do the 49ers do with Jalen Moore. Because right now he's been entrenched at tackle the entire practice, entire training camp practice. Because at first he had to play right tackle due to the absence of McGlinchey, and then on Friday he played left tackle due to the absence of obviously of Trent Williams, and then yesterday McGlinchey and Williams were just getting back into it, so Moore still played a ton of left tackle. And right now, Moore hasn't looked that good, if we're being honest, at tackle. I think Colton McKivitz has been the better tackle of the two so far. But I think Moore could potentially be in the battle at right guard if he gets the adequate amount of reps, because he was there during OTAs at minicamp. He was the number one over there at right guard. And so if he gets the reps, I think he can compete, although I think the 49ers want Burford to win. This is one of the only battles so far that I've seen a rookie in the Shanahan kind of in this Shanahan group of rookies this year being like not given, but being thrusted into the starting role. All the other guys so far have had to work for it. Even Drake Jackson, a guy who, like you said, looked phenomenal. On Thursday, he had his best practice, had a nice sack. He beat right tackle. He's beaten all of the tackles. He's looked fluid, and he even got some reps inside. So far, Drake Jackson has looked good. I would not be surprised at all if he starts in pass rushing situations alongside guys like Charles Omenihu, alongside Ark Armstead, and alongside Nick Bosa. I think that four right there is nice. And one thing that I know we talked about, they could even debut Jackson inside so that he can run right next to Armstead and Bosa. And so that's just a tremendous trio of pass rushers there. And you don't know how to defend that, because if you're doubling Bosa, it's one-on-one, and Jackson does not lose on one-on-ones so far. So he's looked good. And then you can't one-on-one Armstead and Jackson. So like it's a tough trio right there to beat. I think that trio right there is going to be a very nice trio for the 49ers for years to come.
So the thing is, Jalen Moore is ready to play, right? But he's not ready to play tackle. And this is something we need justice for Jalen Moore. We need justice because he should not be playing tackle. And I told Rohan, he was like, hey, I don't know what the text was, but Rohan texted me. He was like, hey, why do you think Jake Jackson or Jalen Moore is struggling right now? And I was like, he's a guard. Yeah. He's not a tackle. He's a guard, right? Like our conversation was like, oh, he asked me, hey, he's struggling. Like, what could it possibly be? Or not what could possibly be, but like some conversation where we're talking about Jalen Moore. It's because he's a guard. He's like, I agree with you. He's like, I thought the same thing. So when you have a guy, and this is something, so who remembers Jimmy Ward when he played corner? When he went to safety, back to corner, he struggled. The 49ers fan base were like, why are we moving him? He was a safety the whole time, right? Mm-hmm. And now that he's playing safety, we're all like, whoa, we had a great safety on our team the entire time, right? So that's something that when you're moving players around constantly, and it sucks because who we're gonna put at tackle right now in camp outside of Jalen Moore? Justin School's bad. Outside of Justin School, Colt McKivitz isn't that good either. He's still having to play tackle. Who else do we have at tackle? Right? So you have to have that swing tackle, and the best of that rest of that group is probably Jalen Moore. I think Jalen Moore is a better swing tackle than the rest of the guys. So they have to kind of like maneuver things, and that's why he's playing tackle. He is ready to play guard, in my opinion. I thought he was ready to play guard last year. I thought he was a guard. And I've had conversations with other 49er content creators and talking about I think he's more so suited for guard than tackle because of his frame.
Mhm.
He a little bit shorter frame than you would want at tackle. And I think he has the perfect build for that center guard role that the 49ers like to run because they like to run that reach action and the run game and stuff like that. So that's something that I would like to see. So now the moment we've all been waiting for, right? This is like the grand finale. Obviously, we're only 35 minutes in, so it's really not the grand finale because we're going to have other questions.
Yeah.
The grand finale of them all. The person we want to talk about the most, right? Everyone knows who we're headed to. So let's talk a little bit about Kyle Shanahan. That's what everyone wants to talk about, right? Let's talk about Trey Lance, man. So for real though, Trey Lance, all right, first 2 days struggled.
Yeah.
Hey, don't. There's a crow right above me, like in this tree, and it keeps crowing at me, and I'm kind of getting scared. I hate crows. I can't stand crows, right? So let's talk a little about Trey Lance. First 2 days, he struggles,
Yeah.
absolutely struggles, right? Or actually, but hold that thought because there's two. I like this question, and there's this one, and then 49ers Throwback also has a question from Breezy about Deebo. So let's hold the Trey Lance, and everyone has to stay in a little few longer to talk about Trey Lance. See what I'm trying to do here? I'm trying to keep their attention with me. That teacher mentality is going off right now. So sorry, guys. An update on Deebo's contract. Your thoughts on why it's taking so long? So the reason why I think it's taking so long, I do think Deebo wanted to be the last guy to sign because what
Yeah.
does that mean? He gets paid more. What does that also mean? He's one of the older guys signing. Him and Terry McLaurin are like the same age. I think
26 years
uh,
old. Yeah.
yeah,
Both.
McLaurin might be a little bit older, right? So Debo's more so looking for his personal interest, which he should. And I love when players do this. I think all players should look for their personal interest against
Mhm.
any team because what is it? We hear something that everyone keeps throwing around with Jimmy Garoppolo within the 49ers organization, right? There's this saying that they're saying, oh, business decisions. The 49ers are doing this for business decisions, right? They do that with every player. Every player. Debo's doing a business decision, and I respect the hell out of him. I love that he's doing that. And Deebo should get everything he should get from the 49ers because he is one of the 49ers' best players. So I think Debo's contract um, gets done before Monday morning. I think that's something that they want him on the field with their pads. And I think if we notice how Kyle Shanahan walks over to him, talks to him for a little bit during practice, all right, I'm out of here, right? He's telling him, hey, pay attention to this. This is the install, right? Like, the install, what we're doing. Pay attention, stick around, run around, do your thing. Um, I think that's why it's taking so long. And plus, the 49ers are not wanting to give everything he wants, right? Like, this is the first time a player has actually not gotten what they wanted. Usually, these players will come in, they sit down, all right, I have my number, your number, the middle number. Deebo is like, this is my number. I'm not moving from my number. I know what I am, and I guarantee you, when he gets paid, all these people are saying, oh, Deebo doesn't want the ball 10 times up the middle. Deebo's never gotten the ball 10 times up the middle. That's
Mhm.
one thing he's never gotten. Never gotten the ball 10 times up the middle. He's gone outside on these outside zones. So I think we'll still see Deebo in his electric running spaces, right? He's still going to do the Deebo stuff
I
and
think
plus
so
being
too.
a
Yeah.
receiver. So talk to me. Why do you think that's happening? And then there's another question that Breezy has for us. Breezy tweeted out this question: will Deebo Samuel get 3 or 5 year extension?
Yeah, so I'll start with the Deebo Samuel conversation itself. I agree with you. I think he wanted to be the fourth receiver paid, and I think the 49ers knew that and embraced it. You've seen this entire last 2 weeks. Everything about Deebo Samuel has been positive. When you see Deebo Samuel on the sideline, he's in good spirits. It's not like he doesn't want to be there, unlike a Roquan Smith with the Chicago Bears, who's unhappy with the entire negotiation. So there are situations that have been unfolding poorly and situations that have been unfolding positively. And Deebo Samuel, I think, has been a positive one. I saw him on the sidelines yesterday. It was either right before the scrimmage session or during the scrimmage session, I forget when, that him and Kyle Shanahan were just having a conversation yesterday before Samuel went inside. So to me, I think Deebo Samuel so far, the situation, in my opinion, is nothing to worry about, just like Shanahan said. I don't think Shanahan cares at all. He's seen Deebo Samuel out there. I'm sure they're working on the install in the background as well. And so to me, I think Samuel, like you said, should be out there for Pats tomorrow. I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping it gets announced right before practice tomorrow. But as for his contract, I gave out a prediction. It differed from my prediction in the past. My first prediction, I remember back in January or way back when, was 5 years, 120 million. And I think it's different now. I think the AAV is going to go up based on the just how the other deals have gone. So right now, my current prediction, I agree
Actually,
with.
Rohan, about
Yeah.
the AAV. So I was talking to someone and as an agent, right? And I was asking him on the situation. I'm like, so does he want the AAV? Because like, right, you could get that 25 million, and you could technically, let's say he does 5 year 125, but the 49ers,
Mhm.
okay, well, we'll give you your 5 year 125, but now you're working on our terms. Now we gave you what you wanted, but now you got to give us what we want. We're only going to give you 50 million guaranteed, right? So
It's
that's
an
where it's
interesting
like,
question. Yeah. Yeah.
so like that's where it gets tricky, right? Because we gave you what you wanted, your 25 million per year. You said you want 25 million per year. That's what you said. You said that on even you had your buddy tweet that or Instagram that 25 or we don't want it. So if you do that, now you got to do what we want. We want 20, 50, want 50 million guaranteed. He's saying no, right? Like you
Right.
need guaranteed money, right? You need that around 70. In my opinion, I think it's to get him signed, it's going to be around 65 million guaranteed
I
because
agree.
he wants to be that running gadget role. And I've said this, that 65 million for me is the ballpark or where you have to sign him. And then Jesse chimes in. He thinks 70 million guaranteed, right?
Perfect. That was my
He's thinking
parameter.
70
Yeah.
million. So you guys are on the same page with around 70. So it's like, okay, if I give you a 5 year 125 million and around 70 million guaranteed, that's roughly I don't know percentages. I'm not a mathematician. I know you are over here. If I ask you a math question like that, you might have the answer.
You're saying what, 70 million of the 125? That's about
Yeah,
57%, I'd say.
and he's
56%,
not gonna.
I think it is.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's
56.
not gonna want that. He's not gonna want that. Think about it, right? Only 50% of his contract is guaranteed. Well, if we look at every of the other guys that have been signing, they're
It,
around 80% is guaranteed of their contract. So he's
and that
better
is
off doing. Yeah,
exactly.
he's better
That
off
is
doing
why
like the
that
four
breezy
year.
question is important.
My bad for cutting you off. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
No, I was just adding to your point, saying that's why the breezy question is important. Is it a 5 or 3 year deal? It's a 3 year deal. Deebo Samuel is signing a 3 or 4 year deal. I can't see a 5 year deal at the moment unless there's a player opt out clause specifically in the contract, which I don't envision because Deebo Samuel is 26 years old. He's older than all the other receivers. Him and McLaurin are the two oldest. And the AAV point is so interesting that you bring up because when you look at the last two receiver deals, AJ Brown was the first one. He got 4 years, $100 million. That's 25 a year, 57 million guaranteed. Then you look at Terry McLaurin's deal. He opted for a lower average annual value, and he got 71 million. And of that, 71 on 3 years, that's just a little under. It's about 23 point something per year, and then that's about and then 53 million guaranteed, but a higher percent of his contract is guaranteed. Then you look at DK Metcalf, 24 a year, lower than Brown's, but a higher guarantee, 58.2 million, which is higher than Brown's 57 million guaranteed. And so I think it will end up being a 3 year deal, probably around 3 years, 75, 3 years, 78 million, somewhere in that range, and 65 to 70 million of it is guaranteed.
And I think what fans would also look at, like the numbers that me and Rohan are talking about, the guaranteed numbers. So they're not guaranteed at signing, right? They're
Right.
fully guaranteed. So for example, if a player
Including.
gets injured,
Mhm.
he gets that full guaranteed, and that's the main part these players are worried about, right? Because if you're not injured, you don't got to worry about getting that extra year, that year of cash, right? You're going to get paid because you're healthy. So now,
Mhm.
as when these players get injured, that's when stuff starts getting tricky. Because if now, let's for example, if we look at Jimmy Garoppolo, right? He got injured, so like that, like if that's what he tried doing. The injured, I got an injured shoulder. you have to pay me a little bit more now because I got an injured shoulder. You have to pay me $7 million, not one. No, 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 no. We're not going to cut you, buddy. We're going to actually let you get healthy, and then we'll get rid of you, right? That's stuff like that. So that's where these players want their cash.
Yeah, and real quick, an example, beautiful example of this is D Ford. He had $19 million guaranteed on his contract, but because of the injury guarantees, the 49ers have held him for this long and have to pay him dead cap money over the next 2 years because of injury guarantees. So they are important in a contract. Guaranteed signing is different. For the three receivers that have signed so far, it's been in the range of about 31 million to 40 million. So we'll see where Deebo goes there.
So now the grand finale, right? Now what everyone's wanting to talk about, right? We're talking about Deebo, which is I think the Deebo situation is important too, because it leads to Trey Lance, right?
Correct.
Trey Lance isn't getting quality reps with his receiver in camp, and that's something that we definitely need because we see the chemistry between Brandon Ayuk and Trey Lance, and I can't wait because I have a lot of people I put out there, and you and I have said on the podcast, we think Brandon Ayuk is going to be that player that takes off this year. And it's interesting that we've said this, a lot of fans have said this, and then Fred Warner said the same thing that he thinks he can take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So is talk to me about Trey Lance and how he's looked because he struggled the first 2 days. He's been that quarterback that everyone's arm fatigue. He's thrown like 3 days, 4 days in a row, right? No arm fatigue. Check that off the list. Um, but talk to me about Trey Lance because he struggled the first 2 days, and then yesterday it's funny because I get a text and I'm like, damn, like Trey is cooking, like he's cooking today, like he looks good, like. And then next thing you know, right after I tweet that he throws an interception or Fred Warner, which is funny because I was like, I already knew as soon as I tweeted that I was gonna jinx it. Like he's having a good day and then does that. So talking about how Trey Lance has looked the first 2 days in person, and then what changed the next day where yesterday he looks good.
Yeah, so I'm going to be totally honest here. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Day one, it was pretty much somewhat of a gimme day, right? Kyle Shanahan talks about it in his presser yesterday. Day one, you're not going to install much. He goes less hard than he goes on regular days because it's day one. So you saw a lot of 10-yard and under 10-yard passes. That's why the completion percentages were so good. I think Nate Sudfeld went perfect that day. I think he was 11 of 11. Trey Lance went 9 of 11, and I think even Brock Purdy had a pretty good day too. Day two, that was the day when the 49ers started really stretching the field. It was a lot of deep shots, and obviously, when you're stretching the field for the first time, it's going to be a lot of inaccuracy. So I had Lance at 6 of 14 on the day
But
with the interception. Go ahead.
I should stop you, right? Because you said inaccuracy, right? But I heard a lot of the throws were pretty damn good throws, but they were just very very competitive cornerback play. So was it inaccuracy from Lance, or was it? Would you say it was more so good good effing football, right? Like good effing football, good
Yeah.
throw, good defense. That's good effing football. Would you say it's good effing football, or would you say it was inaccuracy?
When I was pointing to the inaccuracy, I wasn't necessarily talking about Lance. I meant more the quarterback room
Okay.
overall. But when you talk about Trey Lance, 6 of 14, 42% of completion percentage. Are you kidding me? But then when you look at it perfectly, like you said, I talked about this on stream. Three of Lance's throws on that day were great throws by him. 35-yard play to Brandon Ayuk on the left sideline. Mosley just did a great job, pinned him to the sideline, and then as Ayuk tried to keep both feet coming down, Mosley hit the ball away. Then on the right sideline, it was Juwan Jennings working against Travarius Ward. Lance hit him well. 40-yard play down the field on the right sideline. Lance hit him where he needed to hit him. Juwan Jennings tries to corral it coming down, and Ward knocked it out. Then Lance tries to find Ray McLeod on a crosser from the left side to the right side. A play I've actually seen a good amount from receivers in the Shanahan offense so far. A crosser from the left slot to the right side. It's a good ball on the target, on the money, but Hufanga raced in and just had a PBU, deflected the ball right as it was going into McLeod's hands. Another nice play by the defense. So overall, those were three throws, in my opinion, that Lance didn't miss. He was right on the money. but it was just an incompletion because of a better play by the defense. And I'm not saying Lance wasn't inaccurate that day. Lance had a couple of poor throws. I know
Bro,
he
I
threw
heard
behind Juwan Jennings on a 5-yard slant, one of the worst throws that I saw of the day. And then obviously the interception. This is the one concern that we'll talk about in a minute when we talk about today's performance about Trey Lance. The first interception, right to Jimmy Ward. It's like what you know how fans got super enraged when Jimmy Garoppolo throws it straight to Bobby Wagner. It was one of those interceptions. It was right to the middle of the field. You just didn't see it. And Lance was aiming for one of those crossers from the left side to the right side. He threw it behind the guy and didn't. It would have been an incompletion on the first throw.
was that quick? Sorry to stop you, but was that the play where he was throwing to George Kittle and it just landed right in Jimmy Ward's bucket?
I believe so. Yeah.
So from when I saw a video of that whole play.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could tweet out, but
You
can't.
can. Yeah.
So that video I saw, it was a very bad throw.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Kittle was supposed to run a crossing route.
I don't think so either, because Kyle Shanahan talked about this yesterday, and he was talking about receivers and quarterbacks trying to get on the same page. So it was a poor throw, but I think Kyle Shanahan was alluding to receivers also needing to get on the same page with Trey Lance, because the funny thing was Kittle and Lance were working together with Juszczyk and Sudfeld for a little bit as well during practice yesterday. So maybe he was working on a timing issue. It was a poor throw, but maybe
It was a
that's
bad throw.
well. Yeah.
There's no other way to put it. It was a bad throw. I seen the video. It was a bad throw.
Yeah.
And so, for example, where I am, right? So Kittle is going this way, right?
Mhm.
The ball was back here. It was back here.
Yeah.
It was a bad throw. So that when I seen it, I was like, you could no quarterback in the NFL was missing that bad of a throw unless one miscommunication, ran the wrong route, or saw the wrong thing that Trey Lance saw. He might have
Mhm.
saw that he might have saw the safety, so he wanted to narrow it out and actually flatten that route. But Trey Lance wanted him to keep going vertical, right? So that's something that I think is very key because a lot of fans will get irritated that this stuff isn't happening. Like, why isn't it perfect? Why isn't everything perfect? You gotta when you have a shirt that's wrinkled, you don't just throw it on. We iron it out, guys. We iron stuff out, and that's what they're doing in practice. But go ahead, keep talking to me about this training camp.
Yeah, so that was day 2, right? 6 of 14. It's the first day of install with deeper plays. All quarterbacks expected some form of poor throws on that day. There was, I think there were 4 total interceptions on that day. Overall, Lance threw one of them. And overall, apart from the interceptions, Lance has been pretty good in terms of the rest of the throws. The one thing that I've seen consistently though with Lance's poor throws, they're behind. He has overthrown a couple of times. I think there have been 2 specific overthrows that I have in my mind, but Lance has been behind on a few throws. So it is probably somewhat of a timing issue. I don't think there's anything wrong with his release right now. I think his release is totally fine in terms of how quick he gets it out. There have been some plays where he just gets that ball out really quick, but it's a timing issue right now. Like I had mentioned earlier, he was behind in a 5-yard slant to Juwan Jennings by about 5 yards. He threw it behind him. And then this play right here, he threw it behind George Kittle. So there are a couple of throws where he's behind. But today, yesterday, the practice that I went to, Saturday, this was Lance's best practice by far. Lance finally looked the makings of the quarterback that he could be. Like, I'll get to the stats first because people are going to freak out. 8 of 15 interception. That
Trash.
doesn't sound great. Trash, right? But when you talk about it, Lance had 2 drop passes, and this is against this top-tier defensive line in the secondary. Lance, the first drop pass was to George Kittle. George Kittle it was a 10-yard play. George Kittle tried to turn around Fred Warner, great, like a peanut punch out. So it's an incompletion because George Kittle didn't move 2 feet, but in reality, I kind of consider it in a way as a fumble. George Kittle, I attributed that drop pass in a PBU by Fred Warner. The second one was a play to the flat, Jeff Wilson Jr. It was a nice throw. Jeff Wilson Jr. tried to corral it. He bobbled it initially. I think he was trying to look to run downfield because he saw a charging Jimmy Ward. And then as he goes to catch the ball, Jimmy Ward, boom, just laid the bang on him. Obviously, he popped him. Oh, that got everybody in there. And Jimmy Ward was all hyped up. It was a great play by Jimmy Ward. And another drop pass there in the flat.
And that's something Jimmy Ward got talked about because you don't have pads on.
Yeah,
you got to protect your teammates. Like, you don't have pads on, bro. Like, I know that's what you're trying to pop them, but we got to remember we don't got pads on yet. They come on Monday. That's when you could pop each other. All right, like that's something because end of the day we don't have pads on. If you coming in hot, you can hurt each other. It's protect your teammates. That's all it is in camp, and that's something he probably got talked about. So
Probably.
you talk about Trey Lance, right?
Mhm.
I heard there was a throw, and I can't remember who it was to. I'd have to go to text messages, but he made a throw far hash sideline.
Yeah.
How did it look speed wise? Because there's so much arm fatigue around here, man. Like 49ers should have taken Mac Jones because when you think about it, man, Mac Jones don't got no arm. He don't got no arm issues. He don't got any of that. Blah 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 blah. But no, we know the Niners made the right choice. We have Steeler fans in here, and next thing you know, I need them to do is go to Twitter and be like, oh my God, Steeler fans. They said they should have taken Mac Jones. No, like it's like we have the right quarterback because if you look at all the other quarterbacks that are in camp right now, I've been keeping an eye on Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, and Justin Fields. Justin Fields looks solid. Zach Wilson has struggled, and so has Mac Jones a little bit. Like it's what you work out, right, as a young quarterback. Yeah. So from that far hash to the sideline.
Yeah, it's the best throw.
Zip-wise?
It's the best throw I've ever seen, honestly, in person from a quarterback ever. And it's only a 50-yard throw, so it's not like a touchdown or anything. This is the best throw I've ever seen from a person in live. And so this was a 50-yard throw to the right hash, and it was placed. You all have seen the video on Twitter. Trey to Brandon Ayuk, who made a phenomenal play. First, he beat Charvarius Ward off the jump. It was a great route by Ayuk himself, and then Ward had caught up to Ayuk, but Ayuk was a step ahead. Jimmy Ward was the single high safety. He was charging over from the middle of the field, coming on to this side. He was jogging a little bit, but he was coming over to this side. So you can't place the ball on Ayuk's left shoulder. He's on the right sideline. You can't place it on his left shoulder. It's going to be either incomplete or it's going to be intercepted by Jimmy Ward. You have to place it on the right shoulder, but you can't place it in front of Ayuk. Sorry, you can't place it behind Ayuk because Charvarius Ward is tailing him. So what he needed to do was place it exactly over the right shoulder, and Ayuk had to go up. He made a phenomenal catch, mossed Charvarius Ward, and then kept 2 feet in on the sideline while corralling the ball while going down. Beautiful catch by Brandon Ayuk, who finally broke out yesterday, in my opinion. Great throw from Trey Lance as well.
I heard there was another one. Damn, I'm going to have to go to my text message and go through it, see what it was. I want to say it was a pass to Jennings. It was on the sideline, far hash. Like, not as deep or anything, but it was like, so for example, like far hash sideline. It was about like 20 yards, 15, 20 yards. And I heard it was like a dot. I don't know who it was, but it was like a freaking laser. So
it could have been Jennings because, this was the first play, I believe. First play of scrimmage. Javon Kinlaw, like I said earlier, recorded the pressure on the Banks Brendel mishap. This was a slant route, but it was on the money. The rest of the offensive line was good on the first play. McGlinchey and Williams were in. They gave Lance enough time. Juwan Jennings was on the left side going in. It was a slant route, and it was right on the money to Juwan Jennings. And the one kind of thing that I'm seeing, we'll get to this in a minute, but the one kind of thing that I'm seeing early on about Trey Lance, the amount of throws and the yardage on these throws are amazing. So Trey Lance had a 50-yard throw yesterday, a 27-yard throw yesterday, a 25-yard throw yesterday, a 20-yard throw yesterday, an 18-yard throw yesterday, and a 13-yard throw. So a lot of these throws, they're not 5 yards. They're 15-plus yards down the field, and Lance is hitting them. And Marco was still laughing so hard.
Bro,
this is the Steelers slant, huh? Oh, boy, he better tweet this shit on Twitter again. Oh, man.
But he's talking to, bro, the funny part is he's talking about our quarterback, bro, when he has Mitchell Trubisky, Kenny Pickett. Bro, get the hell out of here with that. You got Mason Rudolph, who might start for you, my guy. Get the hell out of here. Get out of here.
I saw Mason Rudolph, a report that he's the favorite to start right now. Like, Mike Tomlin said, like, Mason Rudolph is getting every opportunity to start or something. I don't know what it was, but, like, yikes.
Bro, that's a team that it's funny because he said you guys are doubtful, but we're definitely not doubtful.
He said Jimmy has a lot of potential. Oh, I thought he said Trey. Oh my, Jimmy has a lot of potential.
Because Jimmy has a lot, but one was funny. He
has a lot of potential on the Steelers. That's right.
And that's someone who's actually called about him. So
interesting.
Let me just throw that out there because that's true, first of all. So we want to talk about the 49ers. Your team's so struggling at quarterback, yet they're calling the
Uh-oh.
49ers, asking the 49ers for
Uh-oh.
their backup quarterback. A quarterback not even
Uh-oh.
on the roster, first of all. One. Two, your quarterback room is trash, my guy. Our second string quarterback is better than your first string quarterback right now. You guys are having Mason Rudolph be the first quarterback. One. So let's not go there talking about the 49er quarterback situation because I guarantee you we are much more confident on our starting quarterback in Trey Lance than you are your starting quarterback. You guys think either Mitchell Trubisky is going to be the savior of that franchise when you guys drafted Kenny Pickett in the first round and he does not look good. He has a weak noodle arm. That's why he has baby hands. Like don't that's not. I love Steelers fans. I have an uncle who's it's a big Steelers fan. I love Steelers fans because they have this passion, right, of
Yeah.
of their organization. It's so amazing. Like they're so passionate about the organization. But nah, man, wrong quarterback situation. You can go talk about other teams, but we're definitely confident on our quarterback situation. I promise you, it's definitely super.
Just
This
search up Trey
organization is
Lance
super.
and see the throw yesterday, and you'll see how 49er fans are confident about their quarterback.
The thing is, so we're talking about the quarterback room. You're I think one thing that he's probably hearing, right? Because you said first 2 days we're talking about Trey Lance, and we're not gonna give no bias. We're not gonna sit here and say, oh, he's looked great every day. Yeah, like that's not us. We're not gonna sit here and be like, hey, our quarterbacks look great every day. Um, no, we're gonna tell you guys the honest truth. The first day, small stuff. The package was very simple. The 49ers didn't really do anything. We checked down. It was more so small stuff. Next day, deeper stuff. And as you start implementing the offense, you start running the ball a little bit more because then you have a run install package. You're able to actually do things with the offense. That's how Kyle Shanahan runs his training camps. You install one thing, install another. A lot of teams just come in, they have their full stuff, so they get on the ground, they're running, right? Not Kyle Shanahan. He likes to, so what he does at OTAs, install, 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 because it's a hard offense. So what the 49ers are doing with Trey Lance is what they would have done with Jimmy Garoppolo. They would have struggled with Jimmy Garoppolo. They would have struggled with any quarterback starting against their defense. So what they're doing, it's no problem. We're not going to sit here and sugarcoat things. And like Rohan said right away, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We're not sugarcoating anything. We're going to tell you guys how we see it, and that's one thing we won't do. I will not sugarcoat stuff. If Trey Lance looks bad, guess what? I'm going to say he looked bad. Did he have a couple bad throws? Absolutely. Did he have throws that were like, whoa, we haven't seen from a quarterback in a very long time? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, OTAs, Trey Lance shredded the defense. He was tearing it up. Absolutely amazing. Now, we'll see what he does as we keep going, and I think he's going to be just fine. So it's funny that, and no disrespect, I hope he's still in here. No disrespect to Trailblazer. Much love. It's all fun and games, brother. It's
Yeah.
all fun and games.
100%.
That's just how we do. How can we be confident? Trey Lance didn't show nothing last year. A lot of sugarcoating. Okay, one, he played against the Arizona Cardinals, and this is me being. You got to use context, brother. You got to use context, right? So one, confident, right? How can I be confident? Let me think. With all the sugar, oh my God, diabetes! Don't do that, brother. Don't do that, brother. So one, Trey Lance, right? First time we see him is against the Arizona Cardinals. Did he look bad? Accuracy was an issue. Yes, it was. But I think when you have a messed up ligament in your throwing finger, you're going to have accuracy issues. Comes back, right, against the Houston Texans. So that game, he didn't look too great. He was rushed a lot. They offense was there. Offense would come and go depending on how he would start throwing. We go to the Houston Texans game. Houston Texans the week before, for a lot of people who say Houston Texans was a terrible defense, the week before they put Justin Herbert in a coffin. They put him in a body bag. They made him look terrible. Justin Herbert is not a bad quarterback, but everyone's going to talk about how bad this Houston Texans defense was. Houston Texans defense was not that bad, but we're not going to sugarcoat Houston Texans defense being shitty. Why did they freaking run the Los Angeles Chargers out of their own stadium? Justin Herbert had like 5 interceptions that game. Well, we're not going to talk about that because Justin Herbert is some god, right? He's some great quarterback. We're not going to talk about that stuff, right? But then when it comes to Trey Lance, who looks solid against the Houston Texans team, right? We're going to be like, oh, hey, guys, it was just the Houston Texans. Just they're not good. Okay, Justin Herbert just played the Houston Texans. They weren't that good. Why'd he throw 5 interceptions? let's sit here and actually talk about it, right? But that's when the fan base when other fan bases look at a situation, they're like, hey, yeah, not good. Like, come on, man, and not the
No, but
situation.
overall, just talking about the quarterbacks, right? The reason for confidence is just the traits that we've seen from Lance. Alongside, you can talk, like, you can laugh about the OTA period, but really, this is one of the better 49er defenses that we've seen, and one of the best defenses in the NFL. And initially, when you see good reports, and when I see straight from my eyes the good progress that Trey Lance is making against this defense, and the traits kind of showing on real games, like showing on real on the field itself, that's when I start to get confident. Obviously, the jury's still out on Trey Lance just based on he hasn't played in many NFL games, but there is reason for optimism based on the traits, and those traits being exhibited in practices and in scrimmages as well.
And the thing too, so yesterday, right? I tweeted, no, not yesterday, the day before, right? I tweeted that Trey Lance was gonna have his he's gonna take off, right?
Yeah.
The reason why I said that is because I have the 49ers install package, right? And I'm gonna send it to you. I've had to send it to you. I have it right here on my computer. So
All right.
the install package, when you look at it, it's per day, and like you see what they're installing, you know, all right, that's quite it's not gonna be much. You're gonna see a little bit more, and then next week when we actually are at camp, when we're at that Saturday, Sunday, the 6th and 7th, we should see the entire offense just take off, right? We should just see it start taking off. And that's one thing that I want fans to start, not necessarily like, I don't want the fans to be excited about, but I think that's something we should pay attention to, because when we look at this stuff, this is something that we're going to start seeing. And if you are watching, you are tuned in, you guys did just get me go a little haywire. I'm on 2 cups of coffee, and it's funny. The reason why I went a little off you guys don't see me go off the rails like that, but when you have Steelers fans come in and they're talking about their quarterback room, like you're talking about another quarterback room, like, hey, your quarterback room's not that good. And then it is what it is. If the 49ers quarterback room's not that good, it's better than the Steelers. That's all I know. But if you're in the chat, you're in there, you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel, 49ers Red Zone Podcast. It's where you're going to get your best content. I guarantee it. So, Rohan, we have a couple questions on Twitter, right? We did a little Q&A, and there's a couple of them that I saved for today, right? They're quick little questions before we head out. So one was the biggest. I'm going to ask you these questions because you're at camp, and this is just, you could give a quick little answer. Who's the biggest surprise of training camp so far?
Biggest surprise. That's an interesting one. I'll go with Deommodore Lenoir. I thought people thought he could be a cut candidate.
Go like and subscribe.
Shout out Trailer. Hey, shout out Trailblazer, man. But I'd say Deommodore Lenoir. People thought he could be a cut candidate. I don't think that's the case anymore. So defensively, Deommodore Lenoir. Offensively, I'll go with Aaron Banks. Aaron Banks.
I'll go Spencer Burford.
Okay.
Because we kind of, like, you and I both we talked about it. We thought Aaron Banks was going to start at left guard. No one thought Spencer Burford was going to come in and start. True. So that's pretty cool. Like, that's a surprise. Like, so I do, like you said, on the defensive side, you said a backup corner last year who looks good to start the season, started to struggle, and then got replaced by Ingleby Thomas. I like that. That's a good surprise. Yeah. How is Omenihu and Hyder looking?
It's interesting. Omenihu has gotten first-team snaps. He has started both on the edge and on the interior. I remember on Thursday, that was the first day that Armstead was not at practice because of the sprained MCL. Omenihu got the first-team reps inside with Kevin Givens. And then yesterday and a couple of other times on Thursday as well, you saw Omenihu line up as the outside edge to Nick Bosa in some of the first-team packages. So he's looked solid so far. His name hasn't necessarily popped up too much in terms of pressures and stuff, but just reading off the stats from yesterday, I know that he recorded a pressure yesterday, I believe. And so overall, I think he's looking good, and I think he's bound for a bigger role as training camp continues.
Next question is so one of the questions was how's O'Neal looking? I think you answered that earlier. Right? You said running with 13, but how's he looking?
O'Neal's all right. I mean, I don't take too much from it. He's running with a 13. Yesterday, the one play that O'Neal was targeted was about a 25-yard catch to Jordan Matthews. O'Neal was playing very back. He was the safety. He was probably 10 yards back on the play when Matthews made his catch. Brock Purdy, that throw just took so long to get there. O'Neal almost made him play on the ball. But so far, O'Neal, he's been all right. Third teamer, nothing too special in my opinion. And he could seem prime for a role higher than that, but I just don't think he makes the roster because we've got four safeties on this roster already that seem locked for roster spots.
Other than the offensive line, is there any worries? And I'll answer this one too, but after
Go
you.
for it. Are there any worries? Right now, it's the slot. That's the one worry that I've talked about a little bit. And it's not necessarily because of the talent there. It's because the cornerbacks on the outside have looked so good that 49ers are definitely going to see a lot of targets go towards that slot guy, whoever that might be. Would it be Dante Johnson? Will it be Jimmy Ward for a little bit? Will it even be the rookie Samuel Womack? But because so many targets so many incompletions go towards the outside guys. I think that slot guy is the guy who's going to be mainly picked on this year. How does D'Amico Ryan scheme to help out the slot cornerback? Is there a way that he presents double coverage for the slot guy? Does he play a little more zone? I don't know it because so far it's been a ton of man. And the slot guy has just not necessarily been looking bad so far, but he's the guy who's going to get picked on a ton.
And you're gonna get picked on, and this is what the fan base should understand: the slot corner is gonna get picked on way more than the outside because of who we have outside. Travarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley are
Yeah.
two very good corners, so you're gonna have to pick on the weakest link, and it's probably gonna be your corners and your linebacker. And your linebacker is Fred Warner, so I'm willing to have that happen because Fred Warner is a solid coverage linebacker. But my biggest worry, I'm going to go with health, right? See, a lot of the 49ers players are already dropping with health in terms of D linemen, right? We have Arik Armstead with a sprained knee. We just lost Maurice Hurst probably for the year, and then we have Hassan Ridgeway who goes down with an injury. So that's for me that's a bad thing, right? Like health, and then you have a bunch of games within like a 3 game span, right? Like 12, it's like 3 games in 12 days, which is terrible. I see a lot of people just tuned in. So make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button to the 49 Red Zone podcast. We just had a great episode so far, about an hour and 10 in. We just talked about everything 49ers training camp wise. You don't have to see me go haywire on a Steelers fan, respectfully. He did say thank you for Akilla Witherspoon, the good corner. You're welcome. 49, a lot of 49 fan base wanted to keep him
He is a
around.
good corner. Yeah.
Yeah, make sure, and Trailblazer, make sure you go follow us on Twitter. I'll hit that follow back on you because I do like the back and forth. I do. You are actually spitting some stuff, so I do respect it. The last question that I'm going to ask you, Rohan, because it led into, you actually led me straight there. Um, it was a question that we were asked on Twitter. How Samuel Womack looking? All the talk about the new and improved secondary, but I'm not sold on Denard Johnson at the slot cornerback's position. I don't think I've heard Womack mentioned by anyone yet. So I know you spoke on him a couple times, but
Yeah, so starting off, Womack has looked fine with the third team, right? Yesterday was his first practice with the third team. He's been with the second team primarily before that. He's looked fine. The only thing is, there are really two questions surrounding Womack and his development. Will he get reps with the higher team? And if so, how will he fare with those reps? Because those are going to be his first key reps, and you know how players treat rookies. For Trey Lance, if he sees Samuel Womack with the first team, he's going to definitely target Samuel Womack, and it leads to the slot cornerback debate already. And so to me, he's looked fine, but he's also played against the backups only. So that is a question that is yet to be remained. Can he compete for the starting spot? Can he pick up quickly from smart guys like Denard in the room? And how will he fare when he gets an opportunity?
there was another question asked, but I'm going to text that question to you on our Q&A
Okay.
because it's funny. But I'm not gonna. It's not for here. If you guys want to go check, you guys can go check my that question and answer. You guys can look down. You guys will see what question I'm gonna send to Rohan because it was the most random question. Like I'm trying to have questions on the podcast, and I get this question, and I'm like, I look at my fiance, I'm like, what the hell, like, dude, come, next time I'm
Oh,
gonna have to
I
put
know
a
what
peep.
question this
I'm gonna have
is.
to like,
I
come
saw
on,
this.
like, what the, like, all right, like, but if you guys have any questions, make sure you guys send them in on YouTube. We will answer them. We have about another 8 to 9 minutes left before I got to get going. I'm gonna go to not breakfast, but I'm gonna go inside and grab some little quick snack to grab before I go to the stores.
All right, no border sports out here. Guys in the outside slot that can get safety help because with the guys on the outside slot can get safety help because the guys on the outside don't need it. What do you think about
So
that?
they will get safety help in terms of because what's going to end up happening, right? So not only are they going to get safety help, they're also going to get they're going to have your linebackers helping, right? Because what's going to end up happening is you've said it from the beginning when they signed Charvarius Ward that we're going to see a lot more single high action. You've said it, like right. So what that's going to do is it's going to allow Hufanga to play that rover role. Like he's able to do what he wants. So what it's going to have him do is, hey, that guy's he's getting picked on, kind of bracket him in a way. So take away the inside a little bit, and now that corner he could shade outside, and you have a little bit of kind of a bracket in a way. So they could do that, and you're also going to have your linebackers inside. So I think the defense is going to be totally fine. That slot corner role is not going to be nickel, whatever you guys want to call it. We don't got to worry about it, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to be the thing is someone got to give up yards. We're not going to go a season where the 49ers give up 100 yards in a season, right? It's impossible. Other guys get paid, right? So like other guys are gonna offenses get paid to make plays, and that's gonna happen. We're gonna have plays on Charvarius Ward, plays on Emmanuel Mosley eventually, plays on Fred Warner, plays on Jimmy Ward, on Hufanga, on everyone. Everyone's gonna give up a play. It's guaranteed. It's football. The other guys get paid too, right? So
Right.
I think that we're not. I don't think I'm too worried about that role because they are going to have help from the safeties. They are going to have help from inside on the linebackers and stuff like that. So having that cover one, that if you're allowed to do what you want, you could shade that safety. I would prefer to shade that safety, and this is what you and I have talked about as soon as we signed Charvarius Ward. As soon as you have a lockdown corner, so hey, you stay over there on your island, you do you. We're gonna shade Jimmy Ward over, but allow Jimmy Ward to roam because that Emmanuel Mosley is so good. Hey, Jimmy, now you have the opportunity to read the quarterback's eyes and put your hands on balls. And once you do that, you're going to see Jimmy Ward get 3 to 4 interceptions this year. We're going to see that because of the fact that Jimmy Ward is able to do what he wants, right? Like he doesn't have to be strictly deep safety. He could come and take away at a tight end, right? A tight end crossing. He could jump that route now because he doesn't have to worry about his corners on the outside. Because let's be honest, we had to worry about Ambry Thomas. We've had to worry about Josh Norman, Drake Kirkpatrick. We have to worry about those guys. Realistically, you do because they weren't that great in coverage. And I'm not going to say they were great. I'm not going to sit here and say Ambry Thomas was phenomenal. There's games where he played well. There's games where he looked very, very, very bad. So that's just stuff that
same story in training camp, pretty much.
Oh, so you can't find Rohan Sports because it's actually his name on Twitter.
Yeah.
It is Rohan and then his last name.
Here we go.
But hey, we appreciate you. We appreciate you for tuning in, my man. Like it's all love. We don't. It's no hard feelings. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those ones where, we definitely like to interact with people like that. You will see us get a little hyped on it because it's football. You know what I mean? But no hard feelings, nothing personal. You don't. I hope I didn't say it. I hope I didn't call a name. I always try not to name call or anything like that's not me. But I'll get hyped up.
CJ Gray here talks about Hufanga's smart, just concerned with speed. One thing I want to say, Talanoa Hufanga, low key, his speed has not been an issue at all.
Like
it's not as bad as people believe. And the one thing about Talanoa Hufanga, maybe deep speed might be a concern, but he's not being played in that role at all. And when he is being played in a role that requires speed, it's that burst. And Hufanga has good burst, initial step, and just breaking on the ball, breaking in to go make a tackle. Hufanga has looked solid so far in his speed. I'm not worried at all, as I might have been worried a little bit prior to the offseason, but seeing Hufanga, seeing his work ethic, and seeing how he moves right now, I'm not worried.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Hufanga's speed. Even from the last year when I saw his speed, like he has solid speed. Never been the issue. I think more so his people were more worried about his straight line speed, and that he does struggle with straight line speed. Like if you're running a 9 route, which he's not going to be covering 9 routes, he's not going to be covering straight vertical routes, right? Like that's not what they're going to ask him to do. But if you do have him, if he's on a tight end, he should be fine. But if you put him on a receiver, then that's when it gets a little bit interesting. But I think I don't know if anyone else has any questions, but we're pretty much did a little bit of everything, right? We talked about the offensive line, defense. That defense is going to be the best defense in the NFL, and you could bookmark that, Trailblazer, because I promise you, this is going to be. You guys also have one of the best defensive front sevens that I've seen. I do like their front seven. The Steelers have a great front seven. Um, so we're going to be up there. I think we'll be a better defense than you guys this year. You guys were one of the better defenses last year. I think 49ers will be the best defense in the NFL this year. And that's something that when the 49ers signed Charvarius Ward and they drafted Drake Jackson, that's something I definitely like, whoa, that Drake Jackson signing and then Kimoko Ture, like, whoa, all right, we're putting speed opposite of Bosa. That's what we did in 2019, and it worked, right? You have guys that could get to the quarterback with opposite Bosa. You have a great linebacking core. Your safety tandem is very solid, and then now you have two very good corners. Charvarius Ward is a cornerback one, and I think he'll be in the top 15 cornerback, like the cornerback ones. Like that's where at the end of the year he could push himself into, right? And then you have Emmanuel Moseley. In my opinion, I think Emmanuel Moseley is a cornerback one, but like the very end, right? Like he's a cornerback one, but he's not a cornerback one where I'm like, yeah, that I could rely on him being my cornerback one all season because he is a guy who a lot of fans were like, oh, he's a high end cornerback two. Well, guess what high end cornerback twos are? They're
Middle
borderline
quarterback
cornerback
one.
ones. So like that's where I've seen, like I see him like he's a borderline cornerback one. He's like that fringe because there's 32. You have 32 cornerback one on every team. Every team has a cornerback one, so and so, right? So I think he's around like that 30 range. I think he's in the top 30 of corners in the NFL. I think he's that good. Last year, I
Yeah.
thought he should have been a Pro Bowler. I really do think he should have been a Pro Bowler without being any like. If we look at his stats and put him up with other people's stats. The only thing he was lacking was interceptions. No one threw to him.
Yeah. And the
Why?
issue,
He's a good corner.
the one issue really when we talk about Emmanuel Moseley has just been durability. If he can remain healthy, he has a cornerback level one type of player, like you said, a top 32 potential quarterback in the league. And there are a lot of teams with two good CB1s, right? The one that comes immediately to mind is the Baltimore Ravens with Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters if he returns well, if both return well from injury. But overall, there aren't too many teams, right, that have that much talent at cornerback. And the 49ers now have two good cornerbacks, which is something that they haven't necessarily had in the entirety of the Kyle Shanahan era. So it's a good sight to see, and 49er fans definitely cherish it because that guy Emmanuel Moseley might not be in a 49er uniform next year.
They're gonna have to make something work because I'd rather have he's in his prime, he's only 20, 26. Like this is the time you be signing a guy like that. Like it's gonna be hard to do it, but with the rookie contract at quarterback, you have to figure out how to do it. I think that's
Yeah,
it for today.
exactly.
I think that's it for today's episode. Thank you all for tuning in to the 49ers Red Zone podcast. Make sure you guys all like and subscribe to the notification bell. Hit that bell, turn it on so you guys always know when we're going live. You guys never know when we're going live. Rohan's always going live on the podcast. He has his own podcast as well. It's Rohan Sports 27, right, Rohan?
Yeah, I just essentially go live on both accounts. So
Okay.
if you guys are subscribed to the 49ers Red Zone podcast, you will always see my live streams. I live stream right after I come back from training camp every single day. So be sure to check it out.
And also next weekend, me and Rohan, we'll both be
Yeah.
at camp. So it's next Saturday, next Sunday, we'll both be at camp, and then we'll definitely be reporting live, straight to the podcast. Probably recording from the hotel room. You'll be at home, or whatever. But definitely we'll be giving you guys even a better show, in my opinion, because
We'll have
we'll
two
be able
eyes
to
there
bounce.
instead of one.
Yeah, we'll be able to bounce things. Hey, did you see that? Like and stuff like that. So like we'll be able to give you guys a little bit better information. But again, if you guys are listening to what me and Rohan say, we won't sugarcoat stuff. Like as what we try to do is, yes, we do have our fandom of the 49ers, but we're gonna try to be 100% honest on what we see, and we're gonna give you guys the truth. I'm not gonna sit here and say, hey, Trey Lance looks great. He looks good one day. The next day, a couple of days, he looks like an average quarterback, like a quarterback that is young and needs the experience, right? So I do appreciate Rohan for everything he's done. Shout out to Rohan. Make sure you guys go follow him on everything. I know he does web zone stuff. He
Yeah.
Nope. I need insulin. You're killing me, my man.
Guys, if just to clarify as well, what I do daily for 49ers Webs on the website I write for, I write the entirety of the 11 on 11 play-by-play recap. So I just dropped one of the links in the chat, but if you guys go to 49ers Web Zone where I write, you will see the entirety of the 49ers play-by-play recap, so you can essentially live it through as well. I write down every pass. the stats for quarterbacks, and also context with each throw. Who was in coverage sometimes, who recorded a pressure, who looked good on the play, because there are some things that you don't see. I can just say Trey Lance threw a 5-yard pass to Brandon Ayuk, but you might not know where it is, what the route was, who was in coverage, who did have a good play. And so that's the extra details that I write there, but I also say on stream as well. So stay tuned with all the information.
So Rohan be going above and beyond. That's what he like to be doing. I like it. But y'all make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you all for tuning in today on a Sunday morning. We had a lot of people tuning in on a Sunday morning. I love it. Hey, and we might have to be doing Sunday shows more often because they love it.
Yeah.
Thank you all, and y'all have a blessed Sunday.